Isn't it refreshing when free really means free? Whether you're a WagerTalk customer, a Sports Memo customer, a fan of our videos, or even if you're not a customer at all, everyone can get this week's edition of Gold Sheet for free. Enjoy write-ups and stat logs on every college football game this week to see the new and improved Gold Sheet layout for this season. To download, log into Gold Sheet's website using username free@goldsheet.com and the password free. No coupon, phone number, or email address is required. It's that simple. Come see why Gold Sheet has been this country's premier football betting newsletter for over 6 decades.
Hey guys, welcome in and welcome to September. It is September 1st, 2022. What does that mean? It means we no longer have to live without consistent football in our lives, especially on the college ranks here, as we've got some great games here to go over in all of week one, in fact, and we're going to do it with three of the best at WagerTalk.com as we welcome in Mr. College Football himself, Drew Martin in the house. Adam Trigger ready to deliver those winning tickets, as is Steve Merril ready to go here. These guys have been looking forward to this moment for a while, and it is finally here. So, Drew, I know you're stoked, my man. You are ready to go. College football, one of your favorites. I believe you just, or you're going to, record the Every Game on the Board podcast. That's going as well, brother. Talk to us about it. What do you got here?
Yeah, Joe. I mean, college football is here. Week 0. Hey, it's a little appetizer, but week 1, look at this slate, man. So many games to go over. We got 3 good games we're breaking down on today's show. Adam, Steve, myself, you, Joe, ready to get after it. College football, my favorite sport, not only as a better, you can throw college basketball, but when you go to these games, college football, you watch them, the passion, it is awesome, man. I am so glad it's here. Thanks for having me on, Joe.
Looking forward to being another very profitable college football season here, gentlemen. And Trig, you know all about that, my man. Nobody's been waiting for this like you, so talk to me here. What do you got locked and loaded, ready to roll already at WagerTalk.com?
Yeah, Joe, it's great to have football back. Like Drew said, week 0, the games count. It feels like more of like a preseason week, even though they're meaningful. Obviously, the games count in everyone's record. This is really the kickoff. I've already bet 4 games for this weekend. I'll probably add a couple more. One of them I have up. It goes tonight. You can get that at my page. That's a 4% play. And I'm going to give you one of my 4% plays at the end of the show. And like I said, I'll probably have a couple more. We have football from now until Monday night, Labor Day night. So this weekend's it's one of my favorite weekends of the sporting calendar. 5 straight days of college football, it doesn't really get much better than that. Looking forward to it.
No, it does not. It also means the NFL is just around the corner there, and nobody fades the public quite like Merrill does in those videos. And Steve, what's going on, my man? Ready for another season of college football? I know you got your fade the public videos happening, along with your top showcase college football games. What's going on, man?
Yeah, NFL Fade the Public videos start next Friday, Saturday, next weekend, obviously. But we do have our first college football top 25 preview video where I give you my power ratings and my thoughts on the biggest matchups of the weekend. That'll be up tomorrow night on Friday into Saturday here. So check that out on Wager Talk TV. And you know me, Joe Marineri. I don't acknowledge week 0.
Yes.
Week 0 does not exist in my numerical calendar. So we wait till week 1 to get started, and I'm starting strong. It's September 1st. Week 1 starts tonight, and I've got 2 strong best bets for Thursday night college football, a steamroller blowout and the national TV matchup between Pitt, West Virginia. 2-for-1 special. September 1st is here. Week 1 is here. Check it out, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com. And I've also got a promo code on my page, exclusively on my page, on how you can get a $25 discount for a full week. It basically gets you baseball with college football for free. That's how it works out. So check out that promo code and the two best bets, Steve Merril, WagerTalk.com.
That's it, man. All right, guys, no better place to start, than why don't we talk a little UNC App State here with the UNC just -1 now here with a total of 56 in or about there. All right, Drew, Mac Brown, no Sam Howell. All right, he ain't walking in that door anymore. Good Lord, he's lucky he's walking in any door. But App State UNC at a pick'em price. What do you think, man?
I'm liking the home dog here, Joe. App State, give me the Mountaineers. Couple reasons why. Looking at UNC, missing their NFL now quarterback in Sam Howell. They were up just 21-14 with 5 seconds left in the first half last week over Florida A&M, the Rattlers, who have not been a very good program for years now. They were only up in that game 35-24 in the third quarter. Oh, and Florida A&M was missing a bunch of players as well. So I don't think UNC looked very good in week one. But not only that, App State, Joe, I mean, they're 11-1 straight up at home under third-year head coach Sean Clark. This is one of the best programs in the Sun Belt. They've won 43 games the last 4 years, averaging more than 10 wins per game. They play smart, disciplined football. They don't turn it over. They don't lose games. They kind of shouldn't. They're a great team to bet on when the game is close. And they're at home catching a point here against, big brother in the state. You kind of touched on it. Mac Brown there, he's getting up there in age. He's without his quarterback. Not sure UNC is going to be very good this year. And the highest elevation east of the Mississippi, home field advantage, Boone, North Carolina. Give me the home dog. Put the point in our pocket. I like App State here, Joe.
Ooh, man, all righty. Didn't take long for Drew to hop on the dog train, man. It is rolling here, Trig. How about you, man? You riding the dog here tonight, or you think we ought to settle down here a little bit with North Carolina's demise?
Oh, I'm absolutely riding the dog. I already locked in 1.5. Joe, I don't think it's going to be a dog much longer. I wouldn't be surprised if App State goes off a small favorite here. In terms of last week for North Carolina, so Mac Brown, after the game, is asked about Drake May and his 5 touchdowns, and he says that's one of the best first games I've ever seen a kid play. And I just had to laugh to myself because and this just goes to Mac Brown, and he's more of a program ambassador type guy. Most head coaches would have been so angry at how poor those first 3 quarters went that they would have not even gotten around to complimenting the quarterback play. Drew touched on it. Florida A&M almost didn't play the game. They were almost going to forfeit the game because they were missing 26 guys. They had 7 offensive linemen, and they found themselves, Drew talked about the first half. Go to the end of the third quarter, it was 35-24. I mean, they were in the game one way or another for 3 quarters. And, you go back to last season, North Carolina, teams ran all over this team. Without any sort of issue. Granted, they brought new guys in. They should be better. They should be better defensively. But I don't know if that happens right out of the gate. And I think they're gonna have a hard time with Appalachian State, who has all of their offensive line back and runs the ball well, and they've got a veteran quarterback that can run that offense. So Joe, I'm looking at the small dog here as well. Drew gave you some numbers about straight up at I think 11-1 at home. And the game's been sold out for a while. Should have an awesome crowd on hand in Boone, North Carolina. Appalachian State's the dog. They should be the favorite. They probably will be the favorite. And I like App State to pull. I don't really consider it an upset, Joe, just to win the game.
All right, big brother, little brother here, Merril, in your neck of the woods here. Are you buying App State to start the year off 1-0 here?
Yeah, don't disagree. I actually think they're the better team in this game, so would definitely not be surprised to see them win. Whenever you have a Power 5 school against a non-Power 5 and it's a competitive price range, you always kind of figure the talent edge is going to win out, but I'm not sure there's that much of a talent edge difference in this game. The one concern I have with Appalachian State is the fact that they are inexperienced on defense, a 104th experience factor for defense out of about 130 Division I teams. But I'm not sure North Carolina is much more experienced on that side of the ball either. We haven't looked much at the total here. But I think the over is probably in play in this one. Don't disagree with Appalachian State. I'd lean over as well.
Ooh, liking some points coming here tonight, too, as well. I love it. All right, App State, North Carolina. The beginning of the end for Mac Brown? I don't know. We'll see what happens here. But I know our producer, Robert, is looking very forward to our next game on the board here. Why? Because it's the Cougs. Give me Houston laying it here against UTSA. This has come down. I saw 5.5s earlier on, and yep, no, that's coming the other way here. -4 total, though. I don't think that should shock anybody. It's 62 against the Road Runners. So come on, make them feel good, Trig, right? You're back in Houston, right? Right? Aren't you, Trig? Trig, you there?
I'm here, Joe, and I know you set that up because I know you think I like UTSA here, but I don't.
Ooh.
And I'll tell you, and here's the thing. So first of all, I haven't bet this yet. I doubt I'll actually get to the window on this game, but I just think you look at last year and what Texas San Antonio did, and now they're coming into this game, but they're not sneaking up on anyone, right? And listen, if you want to make a case for UTSA, they've got their entire offense back. You can even point to the fact that late in the year, Frank Harris was hurt, and that definitely cost them at least a game. I mean, I don't think there's any question that if he's good to go at the end of the season, they may not have lost either of those games. You also have Alton McCaskill is out for the year, which is kind of a devastating blow for Houston. But I just don't see how Texas San Antonio gets many stops in this game. That's where I think Houston's going to win this one. Clayton Tune has great receivers around him, and you know what? The Texas San Antonio defense in the sort of framework of Conference USA is pretty good, but Houston is not Conference USA. They're a step up. They're probably a Big 12 team next year, and they probably profile more as a team from that conference. So even though I think both of these teams could regress to an extent this year, right? Like both kind of way overachieved last year from what they did the season before, I don't think you're getting enough points with Texas San Antonio in this spot. So the way I would look now, it would have to be, I'd have to lay it with Houston. I doubt I'll get there. I mean, if it continues to drop, maybe. But I think the Cougars are just good enough where I wouldn't want to take, it's just not enough points, not getting enough points. So I have to lean the Cougs here.
All right. He's not going a little head fake there by Trig. I got to tell you there, Merril. I really did think he was going to hop all over the dog here. Some might want to argue that Houston real lucky to have the kind of season they did last year. But what do you think to start off with here? Are you laying the 4 with Houston?
Yeah, he gave you a little head fake. A coyote. He faked out the coyote. Beep, beep. Roadrunners, right? Threw an anvil. Threw a little TNT on you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, I do feel like maybe you're a little late to the party, for people that are backing Texas San Antonio now. Last year, a lot of us talked about them on shows. I mentioned them as well, that they were kind of a play-on team last season. They returned 21 starters last year. Of course, everybody returned like 18 starters last year, but they were as experienced as any team in football last year. Pretty experienced this year as well. They did lose a lot on defense, only 5 returning starters, but their offense is 12th most experienced in the country. Overall, the 22nd most experienced team in all of Division I this year, 1A that is, 1 FBS, whatever you want to call it now. So they could be a good team again here. But one thing that jumps out to me last year, they got off to that strong start. They outstatted 8 of their first 10 opponents. But in their final 4 games in which they went 1-2 straight up in the last 3, 2-2 overall, they were outstatted in all 4 of those games, outgained in total yardage. So I do think things are starting to catch up to them. And my power ratings actually favor Houston by just 1.5 here. So I do think this line is a little high, even though I think UTSA might be a little overvalued coming into this season.
Yeah, it's what do you think here? They both bring up good points here, Drew, that maybe they both certainly overachieved last year. Maybe perception versus reality here. What's the reality for you in this game?
Joe, the reality is this is going to be a great game to watch. This is going to be a great game to attend. I mean, these two schools, not too far apart from each other, as our producer Robert knows, like you talked about, Joe. Hopefully he's going, because this is going to be a good atmosphere game. I'm kind of surprised Jeff Traylor's still here in San Antonio. I thought he would have gotten a bit better job. I mean, 19-7 the last 2 years. It wasn't just last year was like a one-year wonder type thing, and he's returning his quarterback, 8 starters on offense. This UTSA team isn't necessarily a team I have circled to kind of make money betting against. Having said that, Joe, this kind of has the same sentiment that Trig was going after. Houston's a different animal. Houston is ready for the Big 12, in my opinion. They got a veteran quarterback in Clayton Tune. Dana Holgorsen, the type of offense he runs can be tough to defend. They're likely going to see some plays they haven't seen on film, talking about this UTSA defense from Holgorsen. He's kind of like a mad scientist back there as an OC. This Houston team, I think they're going to win the AAC, so I don't think we're going to make much money betting against them. I think there's going to be a lot of Houston fans in the seats there. So if you make me play this one, Joe, I'm laying the 4 here. I think the market's helping us out bringing this down. I like the Cougars.
Oh, going with the Cougs here. Am I the only one who thinks, like, you can't put a number high enough on points in this game? I just have a feeling. We might be in the 70s before it's all said and done tonight. I'm with you, Drew. Very entertaining, to say the least, in this one. And then, of course, well, the defending champ. As Georgia will go on I don't know how neutral this is going to be in Atlanta here, but Oregon traveling out east, taking on Georgia. 17 and a half right now for those Bulldogs. Total at 53. This is going to be a 3:30 afternoon start. And Oregon, all sorts of new looks going on with this team. And, you know, when you get 15 kids drafted, Merril, your chances are you're going to look a little bit different anyway, that being the Georgia Bulldogs. But I don't know. They seem to restock, certainly on the defensive side of the ball. So what do are you agreeing with the market that we should be laying with Georgia here in a clear favorite role?
Yeah, Kevin Dolan and I, along with Drew Martin, did a video on this game, a breakdown video, 5-6 minutes in depth here on WagerTalk TV. Should be sure to go back and check those out. Middle of the week here. They're archived, of course, on the WagerTalk channel and also on your WagerTalk TV app on your favorite device. And one thing I mentioned when I broke down this game, and by the way, this will be in my top 25 video as well for Saturday. It's another huge matchup. My power ratings, a little sneak peek before I give those out on the video, is 19.3. So we'll say 19.5. Georgia favored in this game. The line did open this summer at 16. It's now up to 17 across the board. Starting to see some 17.5s might pop. So I do think you lock in Georgia now at minus 17 or less. If you like that side, if you like Oregon, I would wait, as I do think you're going to have some 17.5s. You know, even though on the surface this probably looks like a big number for the public, you know, and I do think there might be a little bit of public love, but I think the sharp money is going to be on Georgia. I think the line is still a little bit too short. And as you said, they lost a lot in the NFL draft, but there's only about 4 or 5 teams in the country that can just reload, and Georgia is one of those programs. So even though they only have technically 3 returning starters on defense, the guys that are waiting to play last year were better than most defenders in the nation. A lot of these guys will be NFL players as well. So you have to be very careful with returning numbers. They're the 122nd experience on defense. So yeah, on the surface, it looks like, oh, they lost a lot. But I think they're one of those few programs that just reloads. The big question for this game, though, is the advantage that Oregon new head coach Dan Lanning is going to have, because he was the defensive coordinator last year for Georgia. So not only did they lose all those players, but they lost their DC as well. So it's a really interesting handicap, a really interesting game to talk about. I think you can make arguments both ways that, you know, look, Lanning knows Georgia well. He probably knows some of the weaknesses of those offensive players that he's practiced against over the years. But then again, you got to figure that Georgia kind of knows what Lanning wants to do as well on defense. So it's a tough call for me. I'll go with the power ratings here. I'll say the line values with Georgia at minus 17 or less, but I think it's a real interesting dynamic having the defensive coordinator now as the head coach of Oregon. And don't forget also former Auburn, Joe, yes. Drew Martin's Auburn Tigers. He pronounces it better than me. Quarterback Bo Nix is with Oregon as well. He's familiar with Georgia in the SEC. So a lot of interesting storylines. I'll defer to my power ratings and leads Georgia at 17 or less.
So it's interesting, right? Once a duck, walks like a duck, talks like a duck, Drew. Oh, it is a duck now. It's Bo Nix. Good God. They can't get away from the SEC. But I talked about this yesterday on Bet On It, Drew. This just screams under to me in this one here. They know Bo Nix. The defensive coordinator knows Georgia football. I think this is going to be a very interesting game and could be one that might be a snooze fest for long portions of it. What do you think here at 53-17 right now?
Yeah, interesting, Joe. I mean, in the NFL stadium there, Mercedes-Benz, I actually think sidewise that does matter here. You know, going from Athens to downtown Atlanta isn't that far distance-wise, but getting out of your, home field there, one of the best home fields in all of sports there in Athens, I think does kind of diminish the home field advantage just a bit. I would give a couple points here towards Georgia, though. You bring up Bo Nix, from being a Tiger to a Duck. He threw for over 7,000 yards at Auburn. I mean, the kid can run around. He's a good athlete. The one kind of, downside to having Bo Nix as your quarterback is his touch on the football, throwing the ball deep. He really wasn't that talented at that. He was pretty accurate. He threw it too hard at times, but he could run around, extend plays. So that's a plus that I think Oregon's offense can have. But in order to beat Georgia, I feel like you got to be able to throw the ball deep and hit those long passes, and that's something Bo Nix hasn't showed as of yet. So, hey, everything from Oregon's offense, good offensive line, they're ready to go. Dan Lanning at the head coaching position, like Steve talked on, I think might help Oregon, actually, going up here against Georgia. Now, a couple stats on the Bulldogs, obviously the defending national champions. They're also 8-2 their last 10 against the spread versus non-SEC teams. So they could kind of run it up a little bit more than kind of I feel like the market really sees. But the real question is, Joe, they lost 15 guys to the NFL draft. You talked about it on the tee up here. That's kind of the most, depletion of talent we've really ever seen in our lifetimes in college football. I don't know how they're going to kind of recover from that. They lost their whole defensive line. That was kind of the bedrock of how they won the national championship. Now, I get it. It's Athens. It's a great place to recruit. Kirby Smart has done a great job there, but I'd like to see it before I'm laying 3 scores here with Georgia. Having said all of that, plus Kirby Smart coming from the Nick Saban coaching tree, he really doesn't run it up on his former assistants. Mm-hmm. I think that could come into play here late in the fourth quarter. If it's 31-14, something like that, does Georgia really punch it in again? I don't think so to run it up. Therefore, if you make me bet this one, Joe, I like the Ducks. Give me the points.
All right, laying the points there. Boy, oh boy, Trig. I know. If there was anybody that would ever take the 17, it's you, my man. So what do you think here? You got faith in the Ducks too. I think they're going to have to keep it low scoring to cover the number. What do you think?
Joe, I actually agree with you. I would look at the under here. Listen, I'm not one. I made money. I probably saved money by not betting against Georgia last year. I gave Georgia out 8-1 to win it all. On the Hustle Show pod, it gets there. And there was like 3 or 4 times last year where a team was catching like 14, 15, 16, 17 against Georgia, where I thought it was probably the right side, and I didn't bet it, and I'm glad I didn't because Georgia covered basically every time. Now, Georgia, in my opinion, it looks like they just reloaded. Like they have an Alabama-type feel where it's like they lose a bunch of guys. They still have probably a top 2, 3, 4 defense in the country. Bo Nix and Oregon's offense, like he's going to be behind an offensive line that knows what they're doing this year. He wasn't, for Auburn. Now, granted, Oregon didn't have to play many teams like Auburn did last year, but I do think that offense could gel relatively quickly. The problem here is, and this is why I lean toward your under, Oregon might be able to move the ball, but getting in the end zone against Georgia is as hard as it is against any team in the league. Their red zone defense is incredible. I still think it'll be just as good this year. Georgia feels like a team that's reloaded to me. Oregon feels like a team that's improved. I talked about last night. I don't think they're your Pac-12 champs. I would look elsewhere there. But yeah, you talked about Lanning kind of knowing the Georgia team a bit. I lean under with you there. It feels like a game that might not have a ton of scoring, and we might see long drives. Like Oregon might be able to move the ball, but I don't know that they get in the end zone, and that's usually a good recipe for an under.
Yeah, and to Drew's point, 3 games there for Bo Nix against Georgia, 56% completion, only threw 1 touchdown, I believe, and was picked twice. So it wasn't stellar against Georgia in his career at Auburn, but he's got another shot at him here with Oregon that is coming up. So 3 games to break down there, plenty more. We got some tonight. We got a whole bunch coming this weekend. So when you put it all together, the question is, what's their favorite play, if there is one here? Drew, talk to me, my man. We got 3 games that we broke down. We got some tonight. Is there a game maybe you're leaning towards a little bit more than the rest here on the card?
11-1 straight up at home under third-year head coach Sean Clark. 43 wins the last 4 years. Little brother on their shoulder here against big brother. Put the point in your pocket. App State at home. Let's get after it, Joe. Plus the fact Ralph Michaels game under the belt stat on our favor. 57% over the last how many years? Betting on the team that has not played a game versus the team that has played a game. We got that in our pocket as well. But really, App State underrated, +1. That's the game I like the most, Joe.
All right, that is where he's going. And by the way, guys, if you haven't checked that out, head over to the WagerTalk Twitter page and follow Ralph, too. Always some great stuff there. He breaks those downs about, teams that have already played a game in week 0, about to play a team that has not played yet. Those numbers might surprise you when you dive into them. So make sure you're following us over at WagerTalk there on Twitter. Make sure you're following Trig as well. Talk to us here, Trig. You got a few. I know you got something up your sleeve here with this. Which one are you leaning towards? Come on.
Yep, I agree with Drew Martin bets, but it's a 4% best bet for me. I locked it in for my clients at +1.5, and I would bet it now because I kind of think they're going to go off favored. I love Appalachian State in this spot. I don't think the final score or the fallout does justice to just how bad North Carolina was last weekend. I also don't know that they've got all of their changes in place, and teams ran on this team at last year. And that's exactly what Appalachian State wants to do and what they're going to do behind that veteran offensive line and a veteran quarterback in Chase Bryce. Listen, Appalachian State's the better team. They're on their home field. The game's been sold out for a couple months now. You're going to have a packed crowd. First game of the season at home. Appalachian State knocked them off 3 years ago. Similar spread, maybe 2-point dog. Again, I don't think this is an upset in the least. I think App State's the better team. They're on their home field. They probably go off the favorite, and it's a 4% best bet for me. App State +1.5 is 4% best bet.
I love it. All right, there you go. Got confidence, which is what it is all about here. Now, Merril, you know better than to make it a clean sweep because then I got to immediately run to the phone and bet North Carolina. So do us a favor. Don't do that. Please tell us which way you are looking here for a best bet on the game.
Yeah, I was going to go with App State as well, but you read my mind, Joe. I was like, I can't do this. So I'm like scrambling to see what else I can use here. So I'll give out a game I actually mentioned on one of the other standalone videos that we did here, Kevin Dolan, Drew Martin, and myself. And I also mentioned it on WagerTalk yesterday on Wednesday. And by the way, I will be guest hosting for the Prez. So it's a safe space tomorrow and Friday to watch the show, as it'll be Prez free, as he will be off tomorrow and Friday. So I'm filling in with Teddy Covers. But I do like App State, by the way. My power ratings, I forgot to mention earlier, make them a 3-point favorite. So even though they opened +3.5 and now it's +1 pick 'em, there is still line value with Appalachian State. And I agree with everything that Drew and Adam Trigger said. So I bless App State, but you're right, that's the trifecta. That's probably bad news. So I'll look at a game on Friday night, the late night game on TCU. This is the game I mentioned yesterday on WagerTalk today. And when I was talking with Teddy and Prez, it had gone to 14 in most spots. I mentioned that my power ratings were 13.8. Well, now it's 13.5 across the board in most locations. So I do still think there's some value with TCU, even though that line opened around 6 or 7 in the summer. And the other thing I mentioned yesterday is the first half line is 7.5. If it does come down to 7 by tomorrow night, I like the first half better because of the altitude. I am a little worried that TCU might wear down in the fourth quarter in the thin air and altitude of Boulder, Colorado. But whether you play -7, and by the way, DraftKings has -7, -120 first half, so you could get that right now. But I like TCU still minus 13.5. I think Colorado's going to be a weak team this year. TCU off a 5-7 season last year will come out very motivated for their first game. So I like Appalachian State. Also take a look at TCU minus 13.5 on Friday night.
Look at it. Look at that. Drew Martin, App State. Merrill, that was the best sidestep I think I've ever seen, man. Sidesteps it. Does manage to throw in. He does like App State, but he's going TCU, baby. First half, TCU. Full game. Trig, he too, all over App State. But don't worry, guys. All three of these gentlemen, their best bets for this weekend are locked, loaded, ready to go. And while you're at WagerTalk.com, make sure you're visiting the live odds page. Stay on top of those line movements, guys. And you can do so for free right now over at WagerTalk.com. Trig is ready to go. Merrill is ready to go. And I got to ask you, because it is breaking right now, guys. And while it is not football related, it appears Donovan Mitchell of the Utah Jazz is now heading to be a Cleveland Cavalier. How do you like them apples, huh? Did you see that coming? Those of you that watch the NBA tip-off show, Ski's head's exploding right now. Steve Merril, Adam Trigger, Drew Martin, we appreciate it, guys. Listen, come back and join us again tomorrow. We'll get you ready for a couple of more games this weekend. Until then, hit the bell. Make sure you subscribe, download the app. Come back and join us again tomorrow. Best of luck with your plays tonight, guys. We'll talk to you again then. Good luck.
Ready to take your favorite WagerTalk handicappers wherever you travel this football season? The WagerTalk TV app is now live for phones, tablets, smart TVs, and streaming platforms. Tune into your favorite shows like WagerTalk Today, Bet On It, and the Opening Line Report. Plus, browse through our extensive library of sports betting tips. Create your personal playlist of betting tip videos to help you prepare for the upcoming season, and set notifications to alert you when new content is added. Download the app for Apple, Android, Amazon, and Roku devices by searching for WagerTalk TV, or scan the QR code on your screen to join the winning conversation today.